Welcome back, my friends, to the Predictive PlayBook. I'm your host, John Ryan. I just got here to Manny's Pub. It's Friday afternoon. I'm psyched that it's the weekend. I'm even more psyched that I have my buddies coming over, like Rob Veno and Tony Finn, Steve Merril, just for starters. And we're going to break down games and we're going to give you a show that provides the best sports betting information we possibly can. And with a number of years of experience among those names, uh, the result certainly will be a very informative show that will make you a more astute sports bettor because of it. So we'll get rid of the Fenway sign here and welcome to the show, Rob Vino. You've had a pretty good week, I think. I guess overall it was a pretty good week. You were scorching hot, and I think I did hear on the Wager Talk today just a minor stumble last night. But overall, you are number one in NBA from last season at Wager Talk, and now going for back-to-back years, which there's only one guy to my knowledge that has ever done that, and that's Dave Koken, and it probably was more than 10 years ago. So congratulations on that.
Yeah, we're still hitting them pretty good, John. Last night was, like I say, not as good NBA as we had been previously. Rolling right along this week until last night. Had a couple of totals plays that didn't work out exactly the way that I thought they would. But, the NBA is a long, long season. It seems like every time I've had these, um, subpar nights, there's been a pretty good bounce back afterwards. It's the only way you can keep that type of record up there. So, like you said, still since January 1st, number one at Wager Talk for the 2020 NBA season, still number one at Wager Talk. So we'll take those into tonight. See if we can't cash some tickets, John. And I should say happy Friday, too. I did bring one along to the pub.
I just got done a show and I didn't get downstairs to get to the refrigerator. I completely forgot my beverage, but maybe while you're talking a game down, maybe I'll just when I disappear, that's what I'm going to go do because it wouldn't be right for you to drink alone.
Yeah, you've got top shelf right behind you.
Well, I do. Yeah, I just can't reach that high to pull them off.
So it's good to get the Friday big weekend ahead. NBA winding down, Major League Baseball heating up. I guess if you were in the chat room while we were on Wager Talk today, I also said as good as NBA's been, Major League Baseball has not been good to me so far, John. It's been a month of April where I didn't really see things all that well. So, like most in our profession, when you're not really getting there, you temper it down a little bit, which I have, and try and regroup a little bit. It's funny because, I always say when we release plays to clients and when we bet them, personally, whether they be pre-flop, as we like to call them here on this show, or whether they be in-game live, we don't make these bets thinking that they're going to lose. We think we're on the right side all the time. And then when you're, so 6 games under 500 in Major League Baseball, you have to stop and say, what the heck is going on here? So I have a little bit, and I'm going to get back into it slowly but surely, but won't be releasing multiple baseball plays anytime this weekend. I don't think, maybe if I get to Sunday and I see something, rubber game of series sometimes presents opportunities. But also FCS semifinal football
Yeah.
this weekend where I will be involved. Got to actually break one of those down on Wager Talk today. So that was good. Do a show real quick. I'll do a shameless plug for myself and mid-major Matt Joseph's Wager Talk today. The FCS semifinal football show airs this afternoon, 5:30 Eastern time, probably when we close up the pub here. And you guys can always see it on rebroadcast. If you're interested in the FCS, which, it's boiled down to 4 teams, John. 4 teams that, in essence, if they landed in Conference USA or if they landed in the Sun Belt or some other non-Power 5 conferences, these teams would win games, if
Yeah.
not divisions. So it's good football at this point in time.
Yeah. If you won, I am targeting a game. The James Madison at Sam Houston State. 2:30 tomorrow afternoon Eastern Standard Time. I was a bit surprised that James Madison is only a 1 point favorite, and it's actually at pick at several of the books now. And I obviously don't go into the depth that you do, so it'd be great to hear your take on this game. But I'm definitely thinking James Madison here is pretty undervalued, maybe 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, it's funny, John, because it looks like we've got take back at this point in time on this game. Sam Houston State's the home team, by the way, for those who don't really follow the playoff format that is FCS football. Obviously, it's different than the bowl format, which FBS subscribes to. But in this playoff format of 16 teams this year, generally it's 32 in a non-COVID year. And when we get to September, it will be 32 again. But this year they've shortened it to 16. And up until the championship game, the higher seed is the home team. So you have home field advantages, so to speak, in these games up until when we talk the championship, which will be the two teams that survive this weekend. They will play on a neutral site, Frisco, Texas. So Sam Houston State's the home team. They opened a favorite. Money immediately pulled James Madison to the favorite. I think I saw as high as 1.5. I was told that there was high as 2, maybe even 2.5. But now, like you mentioned, it's pick 'em, and we see the take back. Here comes the Sam Houston State money. It's interesting because both of these teams have on game day this year attracted money, and obviously FCS games don't take as much to move the line. So where James Madison is concerned, where Sam Houston State is concerned during the regular season on game day, you would see pretty solid anywhere from 1.5 to 3 point movements in their favor on game days. So there's a lot of support for both of these teams throughout the season. Rightfully so. They're two of the best in the nation. And now we see that take back towards the home team, Sam Houston State. For me, I feel, just my own opinion here, that Sam Houston State, they were fantastic during the regular season. The Southland Conference, the conference that they play in, is a league where it's a bunch of spread offenses, spread them out, score points. We saw one game as high as 70 to 63, I think, this year in the Southland. And for that reason, Sam Houston State is generally looked upon as a team where, yeah, you win the conference every year, but we need to see you prove it to us in the playoffs because they don't win championships. And right now, here they are standing in the Final Four with that opportunity, with heading into this season at the conclusion of the 2019 season before COVID. They had the number 1 ranked rush defense in all of FCS football, and that really hasn't changed. They brought 6 of their 7 front line guys back, defensive line and linebacker, and they played the run really, really well. In FCS football, and especially the teams that we have remaining here, they're all run-first teams. All 4 of these teams you'll see on Saturday want to run the football first. They all play excellent run defense. So, process of elimination, fundamentally, you say to yourself, which team can throw the ball better? Which team has the weak link on pass defense? In this game, James Madison has been very, very good overall combined offense in their first 2 playoff games. I'll rattle off some numbers for you here quick. 2 games, 977 total yards, just a shade under 1,000 yards in 2 games, 522 on the ground, and 455 through the air. Now, in both games, the numbers aren't skewed. They've had 200 rushing and 200 passing in both playoff games so far. So really good balance out of JMU. Sam Houston hasn't quite been the same, as dynamic as they were offensively. They've been really stymied offensively here by Monmouth in round 1, by North Dakota State, the defending champion, who they knocked out last week, in round 2. And we'll see, because James Madison has an excellent defense here, if Sam Houston can get above 24 points, which is their high watermark so far in the playoffs. I, for one, think they're a little lucky to still be around. In the first round, they were up by actually, they had a 21-0 lead. They gave up 15 straight points on 2 drives in the fourth quarter, and Monmouth was on their way to a game-winning touchdown when they threw an interception in the end zone. So that was survival for Sam Houston. Last week, Sam Houston had a lead, every single point they gave up last week, John, was on a return, a special teams return. They gave up a kick return touchdown, a punt return touchdown. They gave up a safety. They found themselves actually behind in the fourth quarter. They came up with a late touchdown. They won that game. Um, I'll use the phrase that I think they're on borrowed time here against a team as good as James Madison. You know, North Dakota State, for all their assets, is a team that if you take the running game away, they can't throw the football. That's not a passing football team. James Madison has the balance and the ability to throw. Quarterback Cole Johnson has come into his own here after struggling to start the year. So, you know, obviously the line is telling you it's a very, very competitive game, right? Two of the best teams in the country. I just see the balance of James Madison's offense being a bit of a difference maker here. I know, there's travel, and the Sam Houston Stadium, the home stadium, they do have crowd, and about, I think, 40% full. So there'll be some noise for sure. But James Madison probably a little bit immune to that. One of their top defenders, when I was talking with a mid-major Matt this morning, he's very close to the JMU program, could be possibly out, a secondary member for James Madison, but they've got enough depth there. I like them. I think they'll win the game. And again, you gave the most current line as pick. All we're asking them to do is win. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I think that they have just enough rushing and passing. These two defenses probably neutralize each other. They're both that good. And then in the end, who does better offensively? And I think it'll be JMU in this game. So I'm probably going to play them. But it should be a really, really good game. Sam Houston's got a lot to prove. Their head coach, Casey Keeler, won a national title at Delaware with Joe Flacco back in 2005. And now he's at Sam Houston State. And I think a lot of people are rooting for a potential Sam Houston State Delaware title game. So it could be the Casey Keeler Reunion Bowl. But I don't think it'll happen. CAA's James Madison, I think, is the better team here. So just my 2 cents on the game.
Oh, it was more than 2 cents, that's for sure. It was a complete breakdown. Well done. And I was just looking at the red zone stats, and I'm looking at it for the first time, but it looks clearly that James Madison has a clear advantage, especially defensively. Opponents have only made it inside the red zone 16 times all spring. But when they themselves get in the opponent's red zone, they score almost 90% of the time, and that's a huge differential between the two, which is very, very strong. But Sam Houston, let's see here, they allow opponents to score 66% of the time, and they've only surrendered 12 touchdowns and 27 red zone attempts. So again, it's like you said, it's a matchup of two really good defensive units, and for whatever reason, I definitely like James Madison here by a touchdown.
Yeah, I think what we might be finding out about Sam Houston, John, is that their offense, as prolific as it was, could very well be a product of the conference that they play in. When you start looking at those defenses, McNeese State, Nicholls State, Southeastern Louisiana, and of course Sam Houston was scoring points against all of them, but those are bad defenses. Very, very bad defenses. When Southeast Louisiana was trying to make the playoffs, Southeastern Louisiana was trying to make the playoffs and calling around to schedule a game against anybody so that they could try and get themselves an extra win, they got their phone answered by Southern Illinois, I believe it was, of the Missouri Valley Conference, a conference with really a different reputation. Number one, it's the number one rated conference in FCS football. And number two, they're more defense and run oriented in that league. They're not as wide open and bad defense. And when Southeastern Louisiana went up there, they scored their share of points. I think they scored mid-40s, maybe even 50s. But they lost because they gave up even more than that. So, again, with Sam Houston, the pieces have been terrific on offense. But I think in 2 weeks, what I've learned pretty significantly here is that offense may very well have been a product of playing against bad defenses, because they met up with two real good ones. Monmouth, I think, led the nation in sacks this year. Monmouth kept Sam Houston State very, very quiet offensively. One time of possession, crushed them in total yards in that game. And then last week against North Dakota State, Sam Houston wins, but they didn't do much on offense, not much at all. So that borrowed time phrase I use, I think it's appropriate for Sam Houston here. I just don't know if they've got what it takes to take on this defense and at the same time stop James Madison from scoring enough points to win.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think who did James Madison defeat last week? It was North Dakota State, right?
It was North Dakota.
North Dakota.
Yeah,
but
they
that
both
was
right.
a big step up in competition for James Madison.
Correct.
And they did pretty well. I believe they gained 207 rushing yards against that team last week.
Yeah, they've run it. If you just look at rushing attempts, because I know you have a Super Bowl number where rushing attempts is important. Yeah. JMU has played 2 playoff games so far. They've run the ball exactly 53 times in each game. So they want to run it at you. And then, that sounds like a huge number, right? You think, wow, how many total plays could they possibly have? They're running the ball 53 times. They're hardly throwing it. But yet they've thrown for over 200 yards in each of those 2 games. So, again, the balance is really, really good on this side. It's what North Dakota State did not bring to the table against Sam Houston last week. And I think it's the reason why James Madison will win this week, because they can throw it. If their running game gets shut down, they can throw it. And I think that'll be a difference maker here.
Yeah. We don't have to break down the second game because I know you have the show coming up at 5:30. We want people to go watch that for sure, because that's with Mid-Major Matt, and that's another great show done by Wager Talk. But Delaware Blue Hens. I always found it intriguing that they are called the Blue Hens and they wear the Wolverines helmet. They have the same design as the Michigan Wolverines. So there's a bit of difference between a Wolverine and a blue hen. And actually, a blue hen is not the animal, from what I'm told. It actually had to do with like military stuff from the Revolutionary War, I think.
Oh. All right.
I think I'm right on that. I better, now that I said, I better, let's Google this. And we'll fact check. Well, the Delaware fighting, Blue Hens. And probably not going to be able to determine what. Well, it actually shows the mascot on the logo. Actually, is the looks like a chicken. So maybe I was dead wrong on that being originating from a military unit. That's what I vaguely remember. I could be dead wrong. So at least we know that the logo itself actually is a fighting chicken, fighting blue hens. Anyway, that information certainly is not going to get you a winning betting ticket to cash.
Well, we know that Wilmington, Delaware is pretty close to some of these, historic military battles that took place in Pennsylvania. So it's very possible it could have originated from there. I don't know the origin myself, but I know that that's been a good football program for a long time, John, and they've been out of the limelight somewhat in recent years, out of the Colonial Athletic Association, mostly due to the fact that Villanova has been better than Delaware here. This year, Delaware took care of Villanova. Delaware actually, for what it's worth, and I think, again, this point probably puts a little bit of a chip on James Madison's shoulders still. Delaware and James Madison both play in the Colonial Athletic Association. That conference is divided into divisions, North and South. And when push came to shove at the end of the year, they both had the same record, and the CAA board had to decide which team they would declare the league champion. And they declared Delaware the champion, which didn't sit so well with James Madison, which actually was ranked higher in every poll imaginable. And what it did was it kind of flip-flopped what we're seeing this week. If James Madison had been declared the winner of that conference, they would be at home in Harrisonburg, Virginia this week hosting Sam Houston. Instead, they're on the road. Delaware, because they're playing the number 1 seed, South Dakota State, is also on the road. So the entire conference goes on the road. But James Madison was not thrilled with that decision at the time. I think they still carry a little chip on their shoulder because of it. I don't know that factors into who's going to win or lose that game. But something to think about. One of those situationals, right? Exterior handicapping angles.
Yeah, for sure. And I may not have found what the origins of the blue hen is, but I did find this, which I think is pretty interesting stuff, because I didn't know this. But I'll just read it here. During his years at University of Delaware, Nelson developed the Delaware wing T offensive system, which I remember they ran that all the time, and so did other schools back in the day. The system, strongly rooted in running the football and deceptive fake handoffs, became the identity of Delaware football for nearly 50 years. Nelson also brought with him another icon of Delaware's football, the winged helmet. The iconic Michigan-style helmet was developed by Nelson's coach at Michigan, Fritz Chrysler, who first used the helmet design when he was the head coach at Princeton, albeit in black and orange. Nelson played for Chrysler when Chrysler was head coach at Michigan, and Nelson brought the helmet design with him to every team he coached: Hillsdale College, Harvard, Maine, and Delaware. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I would have thought Michigan had the patent rights on that thing.
Little did we know.
Yeah,
Mr. Nelson.
Mr. Nelson, and Chrysler was the guy gets credit for the design, I guess, but it was all based on the Delaware wing T. So the winged helmet is based on that. And I don't know if Michigan ever ran the wing T.
Yeah, you would probably win a lot of bar bets in the, Ann Arbor area if you walked in there. I'm sure they lay claim to the design of that helmet,
Yep.
not knowing that it comes from, the Mid-Atlantic here.
Yep. Here's one for you. Chief says, Veno!
Oh, Chief. We'd give him one back with, he's got how many? 4 exclamations? We'll give him 5 for watching us. Thank you very much for
I will do that.
to see us. We appreciate all you guys that watch us during the day here at 4 o'clock when we're kind of winding down, right, John? I don't know that the folks that watch realize how early in the day we start, whether it be East Coast or West Coast. I know those guys are up early as well, but by the time this comes 4:30 in the afternoon on the East Coast, it's been a long day. We've already handicapped and we're into tomorrow already. So I like just being able to hang out here from 4:30 to 6.
Yeah, I do too. I started 5:15 every day. But you wake up and you want to get to work. That's the beauty of this whole thing. And when my kids were much younger, it was, you don't take a job because of the money. You take a job because it's, the best job is a hobby that all of a sudden turns into a position. And all of a sudden you get a paycheck. That's when you really have a good fit.
Right.
But unfortunately, a lot of people get, they take the job because of the prestigious title, or, it's something that they, it's all predicated on financial gain, and then that becomes a nightmare. But anyway, another philosophical thought in our Tony Finn's therapeutic segment, since he's not here. Yeah, he's coming on, and Steve Merrill's coming on for sure. So we do have people coming up for those in the chat room. You're not going to have to look at my tired face for another hour. But I can tell, I can actually see myself. In the beginning of these shows, I couldn't, when I was doing just the recordings with Joe Ranieri, I couldn't stand looking at myself. And even back in the days of Wall Street, when I was on Bloomberg TV, you never saw yourself. but seeing yourself when you get started in this thing is it's a little awkward because I don't think anybody really likes what they see necessarily. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
It's definitely different.
yep,
As somebody who did radio and podcast, well up, but from 1992 to I would say 2019, we were still doing podcasts, and then 2020 really with Wager Talk, everything became video. Everything, no more podcasts. Everything became video, and then this year. So when I first got on, John, it's a little different. There's no question, it's a little different to do video rather than audio. But once you get used to it, it's like anything else. It's a conversation between guys who handicap and bet sports for a living, and as long as you see it that way, it usually comes across to the listenership, to the viewership, the same way, and they take the information a little bit better there. So we're not trying to make you guys think that we know it all. We're just trying to help you along. I've always said if we can get off the air and whoever's watched has learned one thing that they didn't know before they tuned in, then we've basically done our job. They got one extra thing that they didn't know, and so hopefully we're contributing that each and every day. But I'll say this about jobs. As somebody who did ceramic tile, a very difficult physical labor job for 17 years, to your point about wanting to wake up and get to work, in that job, I'd never wanted the morning to come. I was like, no. But here, like you say, we do this because we especially love it. When my kids were younger, John, I can remember my youngest son saying, "Do you ever get a day off?" And when I really thought about it, I said, yeah, we do. Actually, it's the one day prior to the All-Star game when there's nothing to bet on except the home run derby or whatever. And that's kind of the day off.
yeah,
Otherwise, sports are every day, all year long. And for that reason, we're at it 24/7.
yeah. There's a lot of other worse things we could be doing 24/7, and you know, if our fellow comrade Tony Finn was here, he probably could start listing them for us, 100 at a time. But
How come both our minds just went to the same
I know.
gentleman?
Yeah, he's a guy I don't mind talking behind his back on. He's just one funny dude. I
He
mean,
really is. He's a good man, Tony
yep,
Finn.
yeah, definitely one of the best. So, why don't we dig into an NBA game, perhaps? Why don't we do the
Sure.
NBA betting angle, which I didn't see the show today.
Yeah, and
But
I wasn't on, so I don't know what it was today.
I'm sure this one didn't cause any wrinkles in the show's format. But I do like this one because it's involving a pretty big marquee game here. You have the New York Knicks at the Phoenix Suns, both teams coming off losses. Doesn't mean that the Knicks now are ice cold. They've won 9 of the last 11, I believe. Phoenix is competing with Utah for the number 1 seed. So the loser and the winner, it's a big impact who wins and who loses this game tonight. And this one is telling me that the Knicks are actually going to be the winner of this road game for them. First of all, they're 17-5 against the number since game number 41, which is the midway point of a normal season. When they're facing an opponent that averages 18 or more three-point shot attempts per game. So the betting angle then is you're betting on winning record underdogs. The favorite's coming off a embarrassing 20 or more point loss installed as a favorite. The favorite also has a winning record on the season. 22-5, 82%, 5 seasons. It says to bet the Knicks plus the points, and I definitely want to sprinkle a little bit of money line on this game too. And I'm personality-wise, I'm not ever really been a big Knicks fan, but the Knicks run here is actually putting some excitement back at Madison Square Garden for the first time, and God knows when. So that's very positive for that franchise, for sure. What do you think of this angle, Rob? And Yeah, you're free to take the other side too.
Well, I don't know. This is not a game where I took either side, John. So I'm interested in seeing, obviously, what you have posted there. I thought that both of these teams are off such bad losses. The Knicks the other night probably played their worst game in some time against the Denver Nuggets. And Phoenix, the last game of that road trip, extremely tired off of an overtime game in a back to back situation. They get destroyed by Atlanta second half. So you've got two really, really good teams that are coming off really, really bad losses. And I just didn't know which way to go with this. Yeah, I looked at the total a little bit because Phoenix's defense, I'll give you some numbers on the defensive side for the Suns. This is a team, remember, that's been predicated on playing good defense since the start of the season. Brought Chris Paul over. Head coach Monty Williams wanted to change the philosophy of this team. They had a little catchphrase, be a pest on every possession. And at their best this season, they've been a really good defensive basketball team. But recently, and the road trip might have had something to do with it because you play a lot of games in a few days, but 5 of their last 7 games, they've given up 49% or better field goal percentage to the opponent. And we covered the Knicks game on this show the other day, John, and we pointed out, I forget who the panel was, but a bunch of us were just looking at Knicks field goal percentage from an offensive standpoint and how well the Knicks have shot the basketball. They were over 50% in, I think, 6 of 8 games. And if you dug back to about 16 games, you found that they really hadn't shot any worse than 47% in a basketball game. So a long-standing run of really good shooting by the Knicks. If you combine that with bad defense by the Suns, you would say to yourself, the Knicks can get some points here tonight, and that's very, very possible. And the other side of that equation is Phoenix's efficiency. I know you're an assist-to-turnover guy ratio. Phoenix is the best in the NBA at that assist-to-turnover ratio. They have put together some numbers this year that have been incredible. And in individual games, they've put together numbers like I haven't seen before. So got a team that takes care of the ball, a team that's really efficient offensively, a team that's hungry to get back into the win column against a team that's a really good field goal percentage shooting team that is 15-2 against the spread in their last 17, and they want to get into the win column. To me, I could build a great case for both of these teams. I think one little thing here, John, that we use in handicapping is first game home after a lengthy road trip. I don't like to be on the home team. In that instance tonight, it is Phoenix. That road trip might have taken a little bit out of them. I don't know how they respond right away. Generally, when you get back home and get yourself settled again, it takes more than one game. So, points could be worth taking here, but I just couldn't find enough substantial stuff on one side or the other to play this game, side or total.
Yeah, it's good points that you make there. The one that really sticks out is the assist to turnover ratio for Phoenix, which is good. Over 2 for the season. It's 2.112, which is outstanding. And the Knicks, granted, if you weighted it during this 17-game stretch, it would probably be better than a 25th ranking in assist to turnover, but it is the 25th best of the association. So it pales in comparison. They're at 1.619. Again, Phoenix 2.112. And it may not sound like much if you're hearing this for the first time, but that's light years between the two. New York has a good effective field goal percentage, but it's still ranking in the midpoint of the league. As you mentioned, Phoenix the 5th most best effective field goal percentage. One thing that Phoenix doesn't do, and it's kind of misleading, that free throw attempts to field goal attempt ratio. So they do shoot a lot and they, a jump shooter doesn't usually get to the line very much. So for that reason alone, that ratio is kind of distorted. They rank 29th in that category, so I don't put any. Certainly, it's not a negative for them. But I think you mentioned shooting efficiency. Phoenix 1.179 index, and then New York's a distant 22nd in the league. So despite this run, it just seems like now might be the time to start. You inherently want to start fading a team like New York that doesn't have the good metrics, that really is only 8 games over 500 despite going, 15-2. But I don't think it's time yet. And I love your point about the first road game home. And let me plug this into our 100% genius database. It's the numbers don't lie. Let's see here. NBA. How many? Do you know off the top of your head how many road games they did play?
Yeah, I can tell you that. Hold on one second. The Knicks are in the road trip, on the road trip.
Yeah.
They played Phoenix. I want to say it was 6, but let me be sure of that it wasn't 7. It was ended with Atlanta. So let's count these up. It's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, if it's while you're counting there, I did a 6-game road trip, and now they're home. And home favorites over the last 10 years are 52 and 57 for 47%. That doesn't really give us too much there.
Yeah, you know what, John? It's not a 6-game road trip. They were on a previous 5-game road trip, came home for 2, and went back out for 3. So it's 8 of their last 10 have been on the road.
Okay,
I don't know that fits into the database real well. So they're 2 separate road trips, 5 and 3, with 2 home games sandwiched in between.
I can do that.
And that is a lot of time on the road.
Yeah, so I did 8 of the last 10. Let's make it 8 or more of the last 10 have been on the road. And now we're a home favorite. 117, 119 against the spread. The straight up record, though, is 171 and 70. And that's 71%. But let me do one other thing here. This is kind of on the fly. Let's see. I'm going to do line between -3.5 and 9.5. That doesn't give me anything either.
Well, I like what you said previously, because it showed that the home team, while they win, they don't really cover. The ATS number that you rattled off was sub 500. And here, with a point spread in this vicinity, you could very well see a win without a cover.
Yep.
Phoenix at home this year, for what it's worth, against the spread, 22 and 12. And the Knicks on the road against the spread, 21 and 12. How even is that?
Wow.
22 and 12, 21 and 12. Both very, very good in this respective situation. So we'll see. Like I say, I just couldn't come up with enough to force me one way or the other here.
There was I was doing a show with a buddy of mine. He's he bets as a hobby. But he's a very smart mathematical type brain. His name's Austin Wang. And he knows Skee, by the way. So that it's always fun when you go full circle like that, and you've been talking to somebody for more than a year, because I got to know Austin because of the COVID, and he and I were building a KBO database to keep ourselves occupied, and that's how it came to pass that I got to know him. But he had one that was really good here with the assist to turnover ratio, and I'm checking my notes because let's see here. I think it was 3 consecutive games of assist to turnover ratio of 2.5 or better for 3 straight games. So let me just keep. Yeah, it was supporting the over in the Heat game. So let's see. Somebody just popped in here. Let's see who it is. It's Mr. Finn. Mr. Finn. Mr. Finn.
And who do we have on? Are you guys still on?
Yeah, we're live right now.
Very good. I've been trying to get some stuff done. I'm behind this time of year to the end of till about May. End of May, I seem to run behind, which is okay. It keeps me out of trouble.
Well, I mean, if you just have to avoid those situations where you're so far behind you think you're first.
Yeah. Well, I'm arrogant enough and grandiose enough to always think I'm first. Did Merril show up today, or is he drunk already?
He's drunk on the NASCAR show.
That's still going on, huh?
Well, I don't know if he's drunk, but
Anybody speak Latin?
I took 5 years of Latin.
So then you're probably fluid. Versed and fluid,
it's not
right?
a speaking language
Oh, it's not.
because all the verbs come at the end of the sentence.
Well, that makes it equivalent to English then. I mean, English has far too many verb tenses. That's why it's so difficult to learn. English, Polish, those lots of verb tenses make it difficult to learn, correct?
Well, I could give you an example, but
I know I've
not sure.
been reading a lot of Latin lately. That's maybe why I'm behind. I've been trying some kind of new hobby other than Quaaludes. So, but the Latin, I've been writing in Latin.
Whoa.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. There's certain things that are fairly household. Carpe diem. But I found something more interesting.
Carpe diem.
I found something more interesting than seizing the day. Something like when you get excited for someone and you want to wish them, go forward, young man, go west, seize the day. I have something better.
What is it?
It's seize the wine.
Seize the wine?
Yes. Seize the wine. You know how to say wine in Latin? You know how to spell the wine in Latin?
Do I know how to spell wine?
Veno. It's a venom, right? It's a carp. Now I've forgotten. That's how much I know. I'll have to look it up now because it'll bother me till Kingdom Come. It is. I've been just stupid stuff like that. Sometimes I get really You think I get sidetracked on these shows? Sometimes you should live with me for live with me a while. It's pretty. Yeah. It's carp. I don't know. Oh yeah, carp. Vinum. It's venom or venum. That's seize the wine.
Seize the wine.
Right. Well, why not?
Why not?
If you're going to seize the day, why can't you seize the wine, then seize the day?
And wine is V-I-N-U-M.
Wine is a drink of it's a beverage of choice sometimes at dinner. Yeah.
Well, the Latin spelling is V-I-N-U-M, I think.
That's what I just said. Yeah, V-I-N-U-M.
Yep.
Would it be venum?
Yep.
Okay, there you go. Shall I go on? Shall I go on?
Yeah.
Should I? How about like yes, my lord? I used that today on the NBA show when they gave me the
Well,
gave me the link. I said yes, my lord, but I spelled it out in Latin.
Wow.
Yeah,
And you did
Yeah.
that in Latin?
I did. Yes.
wow. See, my guess would have been that you weren't learning your Latin by attending mass, Tony Finn.
Well, no, because I've lost my um what do they call that? They call that construction hat. I lost my construction hat. I don't go to church without my construction hat on. I'm terrified. I'm terrified that the roof's going to fall in.
I will say real quick that when I was in Rome,
Yes.
we attended mass outdoor, and it was all in Latin.
Mhm.
Of course,
Outdoor.
35,000 people.
Yeah. In Latin? Well, according to John, it's not a speaking language.
Well, in the church services, it is used.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Old
I
English?
mean,
How about the Old English tone? Where they speak like
Old English.
sir and lord and
Old English is like one of those 40-ounce things that you might find on.
True. It's two different kinds of things. It's for alcoholics that they'll go down the aftershave aisle and grab a little Old English, and it's got all that's good. It serves two purposes. They smell better and get a little buzz.
How about how quickly we derailed, John?
I know. How does that happen?
and I'm responsible because the buck stops with me. So I guess
Yes. It is
I'm
all
not
your
driving
fault.
the train too well
It
today.
is all your fault for certain.
It is. But I told the chat room how to say yes, my lord, in Latin for you.
It's difficult to if you don't. I don't know enough yet to enunciate it correctly, I believe, and that's my biggest issue with the Latin so far. And that's Dominus. It would be Dominus meus, or it would be like sic Dominus meus.
Yeah, that's it.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
Yes, my lord. Well, I didn't know. I wanted to say yes, my king, but I just it didn't look right. Didn't sound. So I put yes, my lord. Same thing.
Yeah.
In my orbit.
So you were responding to Joe Ranieri with the, yes, my
Not
lord.
Joe. No, that would have been more like yes, bitch. That would have been Joe Ranieri. Not yes, my lord.
So it must have been Prez.
No, it was Chris.
I guess
The guy,
Chris deserves
the guy
that.
that's got the plug in his hand. And the one that they both can mute me, and I know they do mute me. Today they just hung up on me. I was talking after the show, and then everybody was frozen. I said, "Well, those F's
Took off on you. Oh my
is hung up."
I kind of like it when he derails the train.
It was a good story. I just don't remember what it was.
Because the good thing is I don't put any rope on Tony Finn where he could end up hanging himself. It's all self-inflicted.
No.
Yes, I'm enough overweight that I would just break the rope,
Oh, God.
or it would fall the tack or the nail you used to secure it to the seat that would just fall out, or the chair would actually break or be kicked out. It would just like it'd be a cartoonish, where you kick it and then just come right back.
So help us with
can't even
Phoenix
do that right.
and the Knicks, Don.
Huh?
You got anything on Phoenix and the Knicks? We were just
Yes.
actually going through that. What do you got?
Well, I mentioned the last time they played, it was 118, 110. The Suns won by 8. And I watched that, as I mentioned on the NBA TV show. I watched that game, a lot of it live. Then I replayed it with, as I said on the NBA show, I replayed it with no huddles and no commercials, so it would go so I could get through it faster.
Mm-hmm.
And in truth, both teams shot lights out. Phoenix, listen, New York lost and shot 54% from the field, 45% from distance, 80% from the line, was equal in rebounds and equal in turnovers, essentially within 1 or 2, and lost by 8 in Phoenix. So I watched. I said, there's something they did everything they just throw up. You know how some of those games are where just everything a team you're on that side where you know that you're the better team. You don't have to do. You got a good number, and then you watch the game and everything the other team does is so far above their pay grade, so far above their skill set. They don't even have to look at the rim. They can just kind of do this, and it goes in. You've watched those games
Yep.
100 times, 100,000 times in your life. It really wasn't that game. It was just that the Knicks did a great job of executing their half court offense. They did their best to accommodate the Suns and played defense. And the Suns really didn't have. They had no interest in being deliberate, running their half court set against the Knicks. They felt more comfortable getting creative in transition, and it wasn't a tempo that was all out or you felt like it was frantic. It was they have the bodies, they have the athletes in a Booker, and even Chris Paul at 105 years old, he can still be creative,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what they did. And they're a difficult matchup for the Knicks because we've talked about this, and that is as Randall goes. Well, let's first off, since the Knicks got hot and really have put on their circus clothes and joined the league, they have shot exceptionally well from distance over the last month. They've been really, really good. They've executed. They've gotten good open looks, and for the most part, their 3-pointers. That it's Golden State-ish, where catch and shoot, and it's a catch and shoot where there's none of these pump fakes or a guy has to go take a step right or a left and clear the defender. They do a pretty good job, and they get in these. There's basically a catch. The pass is in my world too, in my orbit. Man, it's just so nice to see players make a pass where it's supposed to be. What makes it's like catching a football in full stride. You want yards after catch. Yards after catch, they give all the credit most of the time to the receiver. In truth, it should go to the quarterback.
Right.
Tommy Brady.
They on target, on time, in stride, and Deion Sanders has trouble defending that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
So that's what I saw, and I know this. They only play each other now. This year they only played. They've shortened the season, and how they shortened the season, we all know. They shortened it out of conference. You're still playing your. I think you're still playing your regular 4. Or is it 3 or 4? Yes, I should know all this, but that's how they shortened it. So it's a small sample size what the Knicks did that night and what Phoenix did that night. However, I've seen Phoenix do that. When they're really good, that's what they're doing. They control the game, and they decide whether they're going to be deliberate, and they decide whether they're going to make you defend for 20 seconds, or they get creative. Maybe I compare that to Michigan State. If you guys are big basketball fans, and I know Rob's a Big Ten, follows the Big Ten a little bit, don't you, Rob?
I do.
Yeah, and Michigan. One of the things that is a staple of Izzo's teams are that they have the guys that are really good rebound. They're technically sound, rebound the ball, and they're terrific with outlets and they send the ball out to the wings. That they're not the best athletes in the world, but they're creative in transition. And Izzo they were so bad creating points in transition this year. That's one of their Achilles and one of their soft spots, the holes in that team. And we can blame that on we can blame a lot of the things that weren't executed properly on the COVID situation, because it sure was a mess, wasn't it?
Right.
Wow.
Right.
Sure was.
Man. I telling you, I've struggled for this. I've struggled with almost most of it's like I'm sending out some emails, John, so you could bring on some beat writers, see who's interested in doing it. But I know that one of the things they're going to a couple of the guys I sent emails to, they're going to be surprised. They're going to say, who is this and what did you do with Tony Finn? Because he knows that I'm not in locker rooms. He hadn't contacted me in 3 months, I know that's what they're going to say to me, something like that, something smart. But ex-players and such, the ex-players I know, they're all our age. And some of them are, believe it or not, guys, some of them are no longer with us. Buck, I think I told you the story about Bucky Scribner, who was a pal of mine. I don't, you guys, he's one of those guys, huh?
Hunter?
Yeah, punter, all pro punter, was played for Minnesota, Green Bay, Seattle, but he originally played for Green Bay, and he was one of the first punter. He was the first punter to ever hold out for a better salary, and Forrest Gregg blackballed him. He was out of. He called everyone and said, "Do not sign Scribner," and a collusion situation, and he was out of the league for 2 years until Seattle needed a punter, and Bucky was still 2 years out of the league, was still the best available, and they said, "You know what? Sorry," and went and got him, and he ended up playing for Seattle, and then a couple of years for Minnesota. He got his full tenure, his 5 years plus in the NFL. So he wanted that pretty badly because of the benefits, the paycheck.
Sure.
Yeah, he didn't get to enjoy too much of it because he passed a couple of years ago, brain tumor. All of a sudden, brain tumor, and they flew him out to what's the hospital out in the East Coast? The one that's in Minnesota, the
Mayo.
They sent him out to the Mayo somewhere on the East Coast, and he didn't leave breathing. It was that quick, But a really fun guy, a good guy, good person, and amazing left-footed punter that kicked this knuckleball that was almost impossible to field. It would come down and it would move. It was like a DeGrom slider. I mean, all of a sudden you thought you had it, and it would go 6 inches, 8 inches to the right or left. A lot of fumbled punts. He was amazing. This is amazing. I can remember trying to catch those. Imagine trying to catch him in junior high, because I would, and I was the high school. We've talked about how important long snapper is, right, Rob?
Well,
I was the long snapper in high school for about a week, and then then Bucky Scribner, believe it or not, we were in 2 days, and I was a linebacker. I was about in high school. I was about 6 foot. I was same as now, 6 foot 205, which was pretty good size for a high school in 76, 77, 78. And I also played fullback, and we were doing dummy drills, and Scribner was a tackle. He was a pretty big kid. He was also a tackle punter, but he was playing defensive tackle for some reason on the drills, and he caught the dummy, fell forward, and caught the side of my knee, and I tore my ACL. And I tried. Funny thing is, I remember how I kind of let out a little bit of a girly scream, like and I tried to get up. It was fine. I could run straight ahead. And then Coach Mann said, "I need you to cut one way or the other."
No shot.
Crumble right underneath me. I went to the. They had back then. It was obviously I was playing for Lawrence High School, and we were the biggest high school in the state of Kansas. They've split that now, but like my graduating class was 2,800. A lot of people, like my wife's graduating class, like 10. She's from Sticks, from the Ozarks, a hillbilly, and went and saw the KU doctor, who was notoriously drunk, and he got his license taken away from him, and for a while, but he did a great job on my knee, and I'm all about giving guys 10th, 8th, 9th, 10th chances. They've given them to me, so I passed them on to, and Nolan Cromwell
There you go.
was
Wow.
he came in after me because he went down the year before that. I don't remember what year it was now, 77, 5 or something, whatever it was. 74, 75, the year before, he had a reoccurring problem with his knee because he took Laverne Smith and that group. It was a pretty good Nolan Cromwell team. That was a Bud Moore. It was Bud Moore was the coach who was in Alabama. He was an assistant under the Bear Bryant tree. And ran the wishbone. KU ran the wishbone. Well, they didn't have anybody to run the wishbone. So what did they do? They took a world-class high hurdler, a safety named Nolan Cromwell, and made him one of the most amazing wishbone quarterbacks. They took Laverne Smith, who was for a second-round draft choice, and shattered his leg in a preseason game. Got drafted by Pittsburgh and shattered his leg and never played again. But Cromwell and Smith went down to Norman, and OU had won 54 some straight games and beat, I think, a second-ranked OU team. The next year, OU took a cheap shot on Nolan Cromwell on the sideline and broke his knee up. Yeah. So I got to share some time with Nolan Cromwell and his friends. He was back for just some stuff, but he stayed in that room. I wasn't privileged. I was born a poor black child, so I had to share rooms with other people. And but Nolan Cromwell was quite the character, and he ended up being a pretty good safety for the Rams for a couple of years, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
And
he was a hurdler, you said?
He was a world class high hurdler. Could have been. He was good enough to be on the Olympic team and chose not to be. But that was a guy who was about 6'4", 220, 210, and world class high hurdler, speed. Same from the same kind of area. John Riggins was amazing when he was young. When he played college football, he was not only powerful, amazingly powerful. He was about I think he was a 10-9, 10-8, 10-9, 1,100-yard dash. Back then it wasn't 100 meters, 100-yard dash. Riggins. And talk about, now there's a guy that would be great to have on the show because I wouldn't talk about anything, but I just want to know which games he gained 100 yards when he could barely walk out of his car into the locker room on Sunday morning. Because that's who John Riggins was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, by today's standards, that offensive line they called the Hogs is
I guess
pretty
so.
small.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah.
Yeah, most remember him with the Redskins, but forget that he was a Jet.
Yeah.
That's right.
Quite a while before that.
Yeah. Yep.
But
he got behind. That's where I've always said. Not that I'm saying this about Riggins. I've said it about many. I had a close relationship with Priest Holmes Foundation in Kansas City, and Priest Holmes was but he was a Longhorn, Texas Longhorn running back. Wasn't even a starter. But Priest Holmes was, in my opinion, arguably the first or the second best offensive line in the history of the National Football League, and was a fantasy stud. If you did fantasy football, he was the man, because he was good about reading blocks and he was patient as a runner. But that was a pretty good offensive line the Chiefs had with Priest Holmes as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It really is.
The product of the offensive line. Well, Riggins as a Jet wasn't overwhelming, but he got behind the Hogs and did a pretty good job of taking one of the guys that was underappreciated, one of the first black quarterbacks, I guess, right, to win the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Right. Doug Williams.
Of course, they said Doug Williams. They said black quarterbacks. They're not smart enough to be a quarterback.
But I don't think he was the quarterback that year.
Was it Theismann?
Ray Schrader or Theismann? Maybe Theismann.
I think he might be right.
They went back to back, right? They got beat by the Raiders the next year.
I'd have to look that up, but I think you might be right.
I think the Riggins run comes against the Dolphins, right? In that Super Bowl. And
you're right.
Williams beat the Broncos. I would know that. I'm a Bronco fan, so
Yep.
they beat the Broncos. Tony,
Down
I'm
in
going to
Florida,
add
too, I think.
to your. I'm going to put a link
Uh-huh.
to a video in our
Slack.
Slack or in our Twitter or wherever. I saw something today that you guys will remember, and again, this has nothing to do with handicapping games, but real quick, when the NBA used to telecast on one day a week on Sunday afternoons, right? At halftime, they used to have individual competitions, horse
Yes.
between NBA players, one-on-one between NBA players, which I can remember as a kid, I'd go outside and try and recreate by myself. Today, I ran into a video one-on-one for the championship in, I think, 1975 or whatever it was, Bob Lanier against JoJo White. Can you imagine? And I watched
Wow,
that
really?
video.
Really?
I'm going to send you the link.
I want to see it because JoJo White's a guy that I'm a little biased, but I always thought he was underappreciated. He was an awful good player, and there was an awful lot of good players around him when he played for Boston too. So
That's stuff that you remember. I watched one. There was a horse competition, halftime. Pete Maravich against George Gervin. It was fantastic. Maravich is doing all these trick shots, and George Gervin is shooting bank shots from 20 feet away. Just what they were, right? It's just incredible stuff. I wish they had that stuff nowadays, or if my kids could have grown up with it, because it was a lot of fun.
Well, they have those things but we only had 3 channels.
Well, and we got one game a week.
And there was nothing like the start of Wild World of Sports. The agony of defeat, that skier that I just see over and over, just crashing and burning. That's why it's just so different, guys. Not that what we did was we weren't privileged. I wouldn't trade it for anything, because I played an awful lot of, the first real baseball I played was not when I was 8. When we were 8, and I was 8, following Reggie Jackson, I was following Catfish Hunter and Joe Rudy, and who were playing for the A's, Kansas City A's then. We played with a piece of trim, and we would wrap tape up into a ball, and we used black. We'd steal it from our dad, the electric tape, which was more expensive because it had kind of it would bounce a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
If we had a tennis ball, we used a tennis ball. We'd always crack the tennis balls up. But that's what we did. That was, we didn't stay inside and play Nintendo and again have those kind of things.
But the reason why it just makes me think about how nowadays and how it's changed, guys. The best in the business, LeBron James, etc., won't even enter a slam dunk contest. And here you got a gigantic board of 24, 24 of the best NBA players playing one-on-one at halftime. Not that they were involved in the game. These things were obviously all recorded, and it was done at a different time. But still, the best in the business would get together and play each other one-on-one, play each other. Now you get 3 third-teamers in the dunk contest if you're lucky.
And, when we talk about these things during that time period, maybe not that time period, but not long before that, it was common. It was just common practice. It was just common that NFL players that weren't starters when they weren't playing football, they had a job off season. They had a job.
Baseball too. All those guys. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep. And that's why that thing. I don't know this for a fact. I would be lying if I said that I know it. I don't, but I believe that they benefited. Those players benefited from that too. I think they got a little stipend. Not only did they enjoy it, doing that stuff at halftime that you talked about, Rob, I think that they probably got a couple of nickels to rub together for doing that.
Well, they'd get
cool
it
stuff.
nowadays too. They just refuse to do it.
That is cool stuff. We got another guy coming on the show here. Fresh off the NASCAR show, Wager Talk, Steve Merril. with free financial advice, free financial slogans, free financial things
Catch
not to do, like catch a falling knife.
catch the San Francisco nightstick. I mean, something like that. I don't know. The Alan Kowicki,
Yeah,
first place this weekend.
I took Tony Finn's flip phone and put in a bet on my sports pager for Alan Kowicki
Yeah.
to win it all, Tony. They anxiously took your action since he hasn't raced for, 30 years? But
Well, unfortunately,
I have
don't
found a
know what it
head-to-head
is.
over Dick Trickle for you, so you might have
I
a
was a
chance.
big Kowicki fan, and since when Kowicki died, I really quit. I watched it every once in a while. And I still enjoy watching NASCAR and watching the chess match that it is. You know, people. It's just a chess. It's left turn chess match the whole damn time. And Kowicki and his Polish victory lap, and I really liked Kowicki. It was about Gordon's rookie season when he did the Daytona, really his first race. That's really when I quit watching. I said, "Oh, I'm not gonna go watch this kid. I'm not gonna. I just can't watch it anymore."
Yeah, this will actually be. We just did the Wager Talk show, which we actually pre-tape. It'll be on live here in about an hour. But this race is actually Rocky Atkinson's home track. He's like 7 minutes from the track. He's one of the regulars, of course. And Darlington's a pretty good one to
Where are
watch.
they?
It's
Where's Rocky at?
Darlington. He's in Darlington County, South Carolina. So it's his city is like Hattsville, or it starts with an H, but he's actually in Darlington County, so he's very
Rocky.
close.
Then Rocky,
Hyattsville, I think he's in, isn't he?
Rocky's a hillbilly. Then he's one of those.
His city starts with an H because he wears an H baseball cap every episode. And the running joke on the show is last year Kevin Harvick and Denny Hamlin won like every other race every week. So we do the top three picks. We're always on Harvick and Hamlin, so it was always a running joke. He was wearing the Harvick hat or the Hamlin hat. And Harvick had been down this year, and last week Rocky gave him out as actually his pre-race winner, top 3 pick, and he finished second. And he had not led a lap on any track this year except the 2 restrictor plates, Talladega and Daytona, which are completely random races. And Andy Lang and I gave Rocky a hard time about that, but he actually ran well last week. So he's back on the H bandwagon this week with Hamlin and Harvick, and actually Kyle Busch, I think, too. But Darlington's a good race to watch. It's a weird, and actually Rocky gave a little history lesson. In the late 1940s, the guy wanted to model it after Indianapolis Speedway, which is actually Andy Lang's home track.
Andy Dang-a-lang-a-lang.
He found 70 acres of land in Darlington County from a farmer, and the farmer had one stipulation that he could not destroy a minnow pond that he had. So as they're building the 1 mile track, they ran into some issues with it. So that's why the track is like 1.0498 miles, and one side is banked more than the other side because it's from the late 1940s. And it's also near the beach, near Myrtle Beach, so the sand, it's very abrasive. So it wears the tires out more than any other track on the circuit.
Yeah.
And because of the weird banking, you get what's called the Darlington stripe. They come out hard in the turn. You'll see this black stripe on the wall from where the cars and the tires hit it. So it will be one of the better races to watch. Plus, I think they're doing the throwback theme that they usually do for the Labor Day Darlington race, where they do all the paint jobs from the 70s and 80s. So, Tony, you might actually see an Alan Kowicki paint job on one of the cars, actually. So this would be one to check out. It's probably one of the better races, and it's on Mother's Day. So, what more could you ask for?
I like Alan Kowicki.
There's a nickname for that track, too, the Black Widow or the Black...
Track Too Tough to Tame, and it might be Black Widow, I think, might be. Yeah, Too Tough to Tame is what you normally hear. I think Black Widow might be the other one, too. That sounds familiar, yeah.
Well, I know Rob Veno has a radio show to get to here at 5:30, so maybe we can let him go. But before he goes, I guess your best bet for the show.
Oh, a best bet for this show. Well, then I'll leave you with this. I like the LA Lakers Portland Trailblazers game over the total first half tonight. I was looking at 112.5 this afternoon. I think it's bumped to 113 right now. Portland 11-1 over the total in their last 12 first halves. Not only over this number of 112.5, 113 guys, but they've been over 116 points in 11 of their last 12. So Portland scoring at will. Lakers lousy shooting night last night. I think that'll get bumped up here. Portland in those first halves that I talked about, defensively, they've given up 56 points or more in 11 of those 12 games. So it's not just been the offense with Lillard and McCollum, but it's been the defense, porous as usual. LA hasn't been great offensively lately, but I do think they can lean on a bad Portland defense to get their share here for this. 112.5, 113 is not a lot to ask in a first half anymore. So that's the way I see it, John. That's what I like. Portland Lakers over 120. I guess you're looking at 113 now, over 113 first half. And Steve, if they come up with a Morgan Shepherd paint scheme of that 75 Remington Arms car, then use that flip phone and get 200 on that car for me, because I'll root for that one.
So Rob, I was at the Richmond race many years ago, and he was racing in the field. He was like 70 years old. He was still doing the races for Racing for Jesus car was the one that was in the field.
No sponsor, just out there running.
No, he did. He had a Racing for Jesus car. That was the sponsor. He's a real religious guy. He was running like at age 70 with that. It was fantastic. Morgan Shepherd.
Unbelievable. Good stuff.
That is crazy.
So anyway, guys, have a good weekend. Good luck. Steve, I'll probably see you tomorrow with Joe in the afternoon.
Yeah, I'm going to squeeze on there. I'm going to see you and Tony tomorrow, so I'll definitely see you guys.
Oh,
I'll
good
see
deal.
I'll make sure you stay up late tonight and listen to Gabe tell you about his new book.
Yeah. Oh, I need to do that.
Yeah, you do.
He's a funny guy. So, gentlemen,
He is funny.
among other things, right? Among other things.
Oh, I like Gabe a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good man.
But
Gabe.
when we do the show, we don't talk a lot about. He gets all the sports out with Steve before me.
Yeah,
there's very little to talk about. So we just talk about girls and rock and roll and drugs and things like that.
Well, that just happened here. Me and John got all the games out early, then brought you on, and we got into the Kansas Hall of Fame, Sports Hall of Fame. Latin, right? We learn something new every day.
They were giving Tony a Latin refresher.
Yes. I've been reading some Latin lately, trying to impress girls. So speaking.
Oh, you're probably gonna get slapped if you use that Latin.
I'm talking about the girls. I'm talking about my daughters and my wife of 27 years. So I'm so old. If I try to impress someone, then I've gone into one of my grandiose and delusional episodes. Where
there is medication for that.
There is, and they won't give it to me because it's damn good. I will take it.
There's ever anybody who would study a dead language, Tony Finn, it's you in Latin.
I had 5 years of that crap.
I'm lucky, a little bit younger than you guys, where we'd realized at that point that I took 4 years of Spanish. In fact, true story, we only had to take 3 in high school, and I never liked taking foreign language. I just have never enjoyed it. It's just now I've always been a math guy, as you can imagine. And I found out my senior year that a lot of colleges would exempt you completely if you had a 4th year. So I mustered up and took the 4th year in high school, even though I didn't have to. And then I get to college, did not have to take a single day of it in college. And a lot of my friends, when you had to do it, not only did you have to take it, but you had to take a lab and all this other stuff. So that extra year was the best move I made academically. I didn't learn much, although actually I could hold my own a little bit. I probably could speak a little bit more Spanish to get by. Like I can speak a
little Spanish too.
Yeah,
a little bit, but it's very bad. For as much as I spent on the border on the Mexican side for 2 years, I just don't. It's pretty bad. To be truthful with it, it's bad for as much as I've been exposed to it. I wish that I was more attentive to that, because I told the kids they were growing up, if you want to make yourself, if you want to have a career and work for someone, I would learn a language, because it just makes you more valuable, especially Spanish.
Well, I mean, if you really wanted to learn the language to learn, if you're like 5 years old right now, it would be Mandarin Chinese.
Maybe if you want to live in Singapore.
But that's a very difficult language to learn. So Spanish, though. But yeah, I mean, we'll probably.
English is the difficult language.
English is a very difficult language.
Yes,
but one of the other reasons I'm lazy about it is because almost everybody speaks English now. So you can be lazy when you speak English, because almost everybody else learns English. So.
Well, I'm not lazy, but when it comes to that kind of stuff, I am. Yeah.
I just don't enjoy it. You have to enjoy it. Some people enjoy learning languages like 5 or 6. I just don't. That would be tedious for me. It's just not my cup of tea.
I like to learn X's and O's, the new languages, because there's new language of those every year, sometimes every week.
Tony learned the key phrases like lawyer,
Yes.
one phone call, por favor. When he was at the border, he learned a lot of those Mexican phrases.
$5 was my first bail fine in
Cinco
Mexico. I was getting a fight in a strip club. and $5. And I had $5. I just didn't understand what the hell was going on. I woke up in the middle of the dirty old floor.
Had you learned Spanish, you would have understood the situation better.
I went up, and my boys are out there. They're trying. They don't. It was a mess, but it's a memory. It's a good memory.
How about if I do this to our good friend and pal, Mr. Ranieri, and for the betting angle of the day,
send it over in a different language every day.
Yes,
I suggested that they bring you on the show for that, and to basically.
Well, it's already Latin to Joe in the first place, so it wouldn't change much, I think. Although, John, I got to give you props. Today's angle, and we didn't have time to go over it because you didn't really ask for our feedback, but I was going to sincerely say that was the best one I have seen yet since you've sent all those over for months now. It was concise.
I can show it.
No filters, straight to the point, made a lot of sense, and very strong record. And I wish I'd seen that when we had to talk about the Knicks-Suns game earlier. I actually ended up leaning toward the Knicks as we were talking about it just by default. Two good teams, point spread teams. I'd say I'll take the points. But then I would have liked it more, actually, after seeing that angle because it makes a lot of sense. And Suns off a blowout loss as a favorite. Historically, that's not a good sign. And, it's funny, Tony, after we threw it to you, I was looking at it a little bit more. I talked about the big collapse, of course, John, with Cleveland, in overtime. And mentioned I almost had that nice 7-1 money line sound clip here.
I was on that. I was on the Suns.
But OKC, the game before, they only beat by 3. That was an ugly, and then they get blown out, of course. It's not like they're in good current form in their last 3 games.
I would say this. This time of year, I really hesitate to grade a game on form because they're so much.
3 straight games, but that's 3 straight games, Tony.
But that's when there's some teams that I'm not putting the Suns in that category because there's been many, many good teams in the NBA that at the end of the season, they know the teams, they've seen it, they know the players, they know what they have to do to win. And when you're a 13 or 14 point favorite, you can certainly win comfortably in your own head, know that you got them and never even come close to covering, right? And it's just at that time, I'm not saying the Suns are in perfect form, but I'm saying that this is a team that's still not really if they were to find themselves in the championship somehow, some way, that would be an accomplishment getting there because while they have Chris Paul and they have some talent, they're really not playoff savvy. They just don't have a lot of experience. That team doesn't have a ton of postseason experience. And I don't think there's a tougher championship to win. What you have to go through, 82 games of running a 5K every other night and hardwood floor, and then it's those playoffs. Some. And I would, as a coach, guys, tell me I'm wrong, Steve. If I'm a coach and I have a chance to go to Sweet 4, I'm balls to the walls, trying to get my guys off that court during NBA playoffs because a lot of times if you're a 4-0, you win your series 4-0, and the other team wins 4-3. Game 1, you're 3 steps ahead of that team, basically because of you're fresher, and at that time of the season, at full season, you maybe you're 100, and with the preseason, it may be the 100th game you've played in 5 months. It's a lot. That's a lot on the body. And you guys know, I think, Steve, I don't know, I call in a loving way. The NBA is, I think they're the greatest athletes in the world. They're circus freaks. That Barnum and Bailey makes it that what we do with the NBA is the same thing that these guys do, things that they shouldn't be able to do. Not logically, we can't comprehend it because it's amazing, simply amazing.
Who do you like in each conference, Tony? John and I have talked about this a few times. I mean, I said I think Sixers still have value at 6-1 in the East, 12-1 overall. I think they can get there.
Yeah, I wish I could say I wish I could confidently say the Sixers. There's something they have to get through. I think maybe this year could be the year they get through it. I don't. There's a couple teams last year. I think Boston over. We talked about it today on the NBA show, and that was that Miami is not even anything. They don't even resemble the team that was playing the Lakers for the championship last year. They don't resemble that team. They don't shoot the three very well. And this team, Miami, they lived and died really on how well they shot the three last year, defended. But it's something about a magical moment that you peak at the right time. Miami did everything correctly. Boston struggled miserably against them, and a lot of it had to do with posture, confidence. Where Miami just doesn't even walk the same way. They don't run the same way they did last year. So I would say in the East, I'd say really it's down to, I have three teams on each side of the fence there, on each side of the Mississippi, and I'm certain I'm wrong. I'm certain. It's Philly, right? It's Philly. It's Milwaukee. I still believe Milwaukee has the ability. Unfortunately, they have the same disease, same virus that Philly has. It seemingly that when it comes to playoff time, they just completely forget how they got there. And I don't think the Lakers aren't even on my top three, Steve. They're not.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think also one of the reasons the Sixers have a chance. You look at the Sixers, you feel like the Suns. They haven't been there, they haven't done it.
Yep.
But most of the teams are 1 seeds. I mean, Phoenix might be the 2 seed after Utah, but it's a close battle. They could still be the 1 seed. So you're talking about two teams that could both win their conferences.
Yeah.
Yet they don't have that postseason experience. But then you start kind of eliminating the other teams, and I mean, Brooklyn's got some serious problems. The Power Three have only been together for 7 games.
I'm telling you though.
And then you've got Milwaukee, who Morency, by the way, Gabe is actually big on Milwaukee. He likes them more than I do.
I like the Suns. The Suns are one of those teams because if they get good play from Chris Paul and Booker scores 30 in the game, I think I think they can play. They can defend. They're a tough out. But I still think the Clippers, with Patrick Beverly healthy, healthy Patrick Beverly, I think that they're the best team in the West.
I have the Sixers and the Clippers at 16-1 to meet in the championship.
Have you seen that, John, since we last talked?
No.
Okay, because John and I talked Tuesday about that, and we both said Clippers and Sixers had some value to get out of the conferences, and
no Dallas
head-to-head odds when they come out. I would think it's going to be more than 16-1. It'll be.
But I think Utah.
No, I did see it. It was BetMGM.
I still like Utah.
I think you'll find a better price elsewhere, maybe, because I would have thought that would have been 30-1 range. I mean, the Suns and Sixers should be probably, but maybe. I mean, the problem is like anything, they don't let you take the other side of those, so there's no upside for them to offer a better price because they're not letting you lay minus 2,000 on the other side. But I would have thought it was more than 16-1. Unfortunately, they're only like second or third favorite in their conference.
What are your three teams?
Definitely should be higher.
It's Philly, Brooklyn, Milwaukee, and it's the Clippers, the Suns, Phoenix, and Utah for me. Those are the 6 teams. I think those are the 6 teams.
I'm with you.
And guess what? They happen to be the top 3 seeds in both conferences too.
I mean, John, just looking at the future odds, I mean, 6-1, that's 15%. Obviously, the odds are less than that because it should be, the no would be minus 1,000. But just say 15% since we think there's value there. Say the Clippers are 25%, which is actually higher than what the odds are saying. But just say 25 and 15 for each of them to win. That comes out to like 3.5% that they both win. So that's 25-30-1 is what the true odds should be. So, the 16-1 is definitely skewing a little bit, unfortunately. Yeah, that's why I in my head had 30-1, which I guess would be the true odds. So I was pretty spot on actually with that. I'd have to probably get more than 16-1, unfortunately, to make that play.
And I did it for a little bit at BetMGM at 16-1. It's now 14-1.
Yeah.
Sixers
really?
and the Clippers.
Well, listen, that's not. I don't think it's outrageous. I think that's
the one thing,
very
Steve,
possible.
I think with these
matchup
odds.
The true odds should be a lot higher, I think.
I'm not talking about the odds. I'm talking about the probability of those two representing the conferences. I think it's absolutely probable. Yeah, as far as the true odds, I'm one of those also that says you're not going to get true odds on a lot of things we do. We're never going to get true odds. I mean, true odds. Here's the deal: if you think it's a winner, Stevie, and somebody's going to shove the proposition in front of you and offer you a 10-1 rather than 13-1, take it and collect your money.
Yeah, I don't. That's not true. First of all, I mean, Maybe at 10-1 or 13-1, you can kind of use that logic if you think it's going to be a winner, because you can be wrong 9 out of 10 times and still win.
Yeah.
But
no, you have to.
But I mean, look. If the true odds are 3.5%, at 16-1, it's 6%. So
I'm one of those.
That's a pretty big gap you're giving up. Now, I think the true odds are better than 3.5 to 1. So I don't think 16-1's a bad price. I think it's probably near the fair. I was just expecting it to be a little high. I'm just disappointed it's not higher. I guess is my point.
I take
when we
bad
talked
numbers
Tuesday, I thought
all
it'd be
the time.
A little higher.
We do it. You do too. If you don't, I'm surprised. Every year in football, basketball, baseball, I take bad numbers. I take bad numbers because, well, they're bad numbers and they don't reflect the true odds or the true handicap or represent the power ratings accurately. I do it because I know I'm a winner. I know that while I'm not getting true odds,
it's not a bad number then.
Well, it's a bad
you're
number.
You're forgetting one important thing about this
bad
true
number
odds.
in relation to the true odds.
Yeah, but it's not a bad number because you make the true odds probably a good number. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
no, I don't do that. But I understand what you're saying. Yes, but you have to call it a bad number. It's a bad number. It's a bad number because guess what? There's bad numbers all the time, guys. The books don't make numbers based on what they think the score is going to be. That's not what they do. So there's bad numbers all the time out there.
No, it's a bad numbers if your expected return is less than the expected payoff.
Man, my expected return is
there's no other way to phrase it. Whether you win or lose, it's just random variance on that point. But
that's true. Yeah.
I don't think you're playing bad numbers as much.
The
as
most
you think,
successful handicappers I know do a really good job of winning with bad numbers, and that's just my way of phrasing it.
Not playing bad numbers, then.
Well, true. I mean, I agree with that.
That's my point. My point is they're not playing bad numbers. If they consistently play what's perceived as a bad number and they're winning like on a large sample
you'll
size,
hear. I'm not saying. I'm
bad
saying
numbers.
You'll hear 100 guys they're in this business tell you, "Hey, it's a bad number." I don't think they're saying it's a. I don't think they're saying that. You know what I'm saying? That phrase is used. It's overused. But I use it all the time.
Yeah, no, I understand your point. It's just you would agree that that's not technically correct. If
of
they're
course
winning long term playing bad numbers, they're not bad numbers.
No.
You know why 16-1 is a good number?
Yeah, I do.
You're forgetting one important thing about how those odds work.
It's the Fibonacci.
No, it's not Fibonacci.
It's a Fibonacci. It's a 3.8. I don't know.
All right, so I'm trying to see what the odds are in the Western Conference here. Let's see if I can pull it up here. Where the heck is it? Well, Steve, you can tell me. The Clippers are what are they again to win the Western Conference?
I mean, the other day it was like 4.5 to 1. It was 6 to 1 to 6.
And they're second to
the Lakers.
And the Lakers are the favorite.
Correct.
There's nobody between them and the Lakers.
Correct.
All right, so the odds are more in favor of the Sixers than the Clippers. They could play the Lakers actually in the first round.
Who?
The Clippers, couldn't they?
No. Well, yeah, they could.
I don't know if they let divisional. I guess they do. I guess that could happen. Yeah,
it could happen.
So if somewhere along the way the Lakers will get eliminated, in my calculation here.
Okay.
That then makes the Clippers the favorite. The Clippers then would go from +4.5 probably to +150.
Yeah, and John, by the way, I'm looking at FanDuel right now. The Lakers are +210. The Clippers are +240. So they've drastically fallen the last week or so.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
So still
and that probably is because the Lakers are more likely to play them now. That's actually a huge part of that, probably, like you're saying.
Right now, I guess, does the Lakers have the tiebreaker over Portland because they're both 11 game? Lakers could be the 7th seed right now. They're listed as the 6th, but they have the exact same record.
Yeah, and Philly, by the way, is +390 now to win the conference. They were 6 to 1 a few days ago. So I'm just looking at FanDuel. I'm sure there's better odds out there, but we're showing how this has really dropped since we last talked. So 16 to 1 is probably based on this. It probably was 25 to 1 a week ago. So,
but don't forget the one thing here. When you look at these matchups, these teams have eliminated everybody in their conference. So as the Sixers, eliminate, or the teams ahead of them in the odds are eliminated, they then become steadily the favorite, and that +390 will go to +150, or lower come the championship game. So what that 16-1 factors in is the point that the Sixers win the Eastern Conference and the Clippers win the Western Conference to meet. So the odds of, based on the odds of the individual conferences, 1 in 16 finals will have the Clippers and the Sixers in it.
Well, look, I mean, FanDuel might even let you do this because I know like DraftKings and FanDuel have these creative like parlays and stuff. Mm-hmm. You're getting basically say 4-1 and 3-1. It's actually a little less now. It's like 2.5 and 390. But if they allow you to parlay those two, which they might because they're mutually exclusive, that would come out to about less than 16-1. It's less than 14-1 actually. So those are good future odds. I mean, you're not going to even get better on a parlay now between the two. So they've dropped more than I realized. I think that's a big thing. That's why I was surprised to hear 16-1. But at plus 240 and plus 390, 16-1 is actually a good payoff now if those are the true odds. So when we were talking last week, it was like 4-1 and 6-1. So I'm thinking 20 to 30 to range, which it would have been in the 20s probably. So it's come down accordingly. The markets don't sleep. They're on top of that, I think. But it also means we're on the right side. I mean, I think it's agreeing with the move is agreeing with our theory.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one I wanted to mention to you guys too, the stage of elimination for here we are. They don't have the Lakers out yet. But for example, they have the Phoenix Suns stage of elimination. They'll win the NBA championship 14-1. They'll lose in the finals 6-1. They'll lose in the conference finals plus 220. Lose in the conference semifinals plus 220. Lose in the first round plus 200. So I'm interested to see what they do when the Lakers come out. And it's pretty obvious why they don't have lines for the Lakers right now because they're a big question mark.
Yeah, I mean, they could be in a 1 or 2 game elimination situation. So.
Yep.
By the way, I love this play-in concept. Of course, the two guys that hate it now are the Mavericks, Cuban, and the Lakers, LeBron, because they might be in it. But, I mean, the NBA regular season, as we've seen this year with all these guys sitting and stuff, it has too little meaning with everyone making the playoffs. Yet, it's exciting to have a lot of teams make the playoffs. So the way you solve that is exactly what they're doing. You reward regular season success with like a bye or an easier round, and you give teams a chance to get in the playoffs, which still keeps more teams alive, which is also good for the regular season, but enough incentive not to have to be in that one and done or two and done scenario. So I love this play-in scenario, and I think they could even expand it to make it even more. The top 4 get a bye, and the other ones all have to play in. But yeah, it keeps the regular season more meaningful because it's the same with baseball. More teams are involved. But what I don't like about baseball is that you play 162 games and you barely get any advantage for dominating the field in the regular season, and yes, you don't have to do the one and done ridiculousness of the play-in wild card or whatever they call it, but still, I'd like to see a little bit more reward to the regular season success. But I like the NBA playoff. I think this whole play-in thing makes a lot of sense, and it's good for the regular season in many ways.
Yeah, I agree. Player prop in the Sixers-Pelicans game.
Yeah.
Points, assists, rebounds, over 25.5 with, guess who? Ben Simmons.
Yeah. Well, what's the number?
25.5.
Let me see something real quick here. And so, what is your? How many minutes will Ben play tonight?
Well, upwards of probably 30. If the game, I mean, that's a good point. You have to assume the game is going to be close enough for him to stay in.
I think this is one of those games where Philly wants to, and they want to play tough, a tough, rugged, and defensively minded first half. That I don't think there's going to be a reason for him playing further because without Zion, and if you can defend this New Orleans team just a little bit, I'm not certain that they have answers to Philly's defense, nor can they defend. So I don't know your thoughts on no Zion. What is New Orleans? Who are they?
Well, they're low ball. They got him. They have Bledsoe.
Yeah, but low ball. Let me tell you right now, I'm one of those that believes wholeheartedly that there's a dozen guys in the league that, if even as long and lean as low ball is, that can make him so frustrated, that he throws his hands in the air before the third quarter. If they want to, I'm just saying. He's done some things to change some of that by changing his shot. I was one of those that wrote several pieces about he's going to have. You can't shoot the ball from your waist in the NBA. You can't do it. And I'm exaggerating. I'm embellishing to a degree, but.
So you don't like 25.5 over?
No, I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying that I have this. I walk away from it just as fast as I can, run away from it as fast as I can, because I have this feeling that I just have this feeling that Philly could be up by 20 at 25.5, and you wouldn't see much of Ben Simmons. I think at this point in time, if I'm a coach and my guys are up by 20, 25.5, and I'm comfortable that my second rotation can take the majority of the minutes in the second half, that's what I would do.
It is a good point, because Doc Rivers is looking like a genius now with the load management of Embiid, and he's playing like 23 to 27 minutes, and he's going to be rested for the playoffs, and he's not going to be rusty. Whereas Harden is sitting out all the way to the playoffs.
Yeah,
and I don't care who it is.
But listen, I don't care. I saw Harden perform admirably when he was 50 pounds overweight. When he came in this season in the league this year. he had a beer gut like I said, what? It didn't take him long to kind of trim up, but he looked pretty rough when he first came when they opened the season.
Ben Simmons over 3-pointers.
None.
0.5 plus 1100.
0.5?
0.5 plus 1100. What am I missing? That sounds like a great opportunity.
If he makes a 3-pointer, you get paid 1100. Is that what you're saying?
Well, it underneath that Danny Green's 2.5 minus 110. So over 0.5, I would get plus 1100. That would be. I'm not thinking right. No, I am thinking right.
Let me ask you this: how many 3-point shots has Ben Simmons taken this year?
Who, Simmons?
Yeah.
Well, he's due.
Well, yeah, I'm due to hit the Powerball too, but I'm still not going to hit it. I'm way overdue.
I think he's probably launched about 8.
Well, if he's launched 8 3-pointers, and I think it's a bad number. The odds are bad because first off, he probably has to shoot 10 of them before he makes one. So, holy shit.
Hey, you saw that video. I saw that live, actually, last year when he was standing in the corner of the 3-point during the warm-ups and drained 11 of 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's 30% this year, which
it's amazing.
Like career high.
It's amazing how well we can perform when there's absolutely no pressure.
Yeah.
So, John, I'm looking right now. He has made a 3-pointer in 9 games this season, and 8 of those games exactly won, and only 1 game he made 2 out of all the games this year. So, Tony Finn is right about that being a bad number. I'm
getting plus 1100.
So he's made 1 in 9 games, so that's probably about right. But he has only made more than 1 once all season, and he's missed 10 or so, I think, games. So I'm not sure how many he's played. I'll have to look here how many games he's played. He's played 54 games this year, so he's made a 3 in roughly 20% of the games. He's made more than 1 in only 1 out of 54 games. So you would need 53 to 1 for the true odds. So 11 to 1 is a little short. And you'll notice they're not letting you take the other side of that at minus 2,000, I believe. So that's the problem with those markets. I just hardly ever look at them just because it's not a two-way market. It's like I'll get back to financials for John. That Dogecoin, I'm licking my chops to short that if I ever could, because I was talking to Joe Ranieri about it the other day. Apparently, like 2 guys hold 90% of it in their wallets, and that's why it's soaring. But whenever they liquidate, it bottoms out. And it started as a joke. It is a joke. There's no fundamental value to it. It's not like Bitcoin or Ether. I mean, there is no value to it. Problem, though, as you know, John, is there's no two-way market. It's just you can only buy it. You can sell it, but you have to own it to buy it. I'm sure as hell not going to buy in now at an all-time high just so I can try to sell it.
Well, if you're buying now, You buy it
and,
now.
And as John knows, I mean, being able to short, that's what makes markets. And so the SEC guy yesterday talking about looking into it again due to the GameStop thing. And it's like whenever they start regulating, whether it's long or short, it's not good. It's going to make the markets less efficient. They're just so stupid. They're trying to get rid of shenanigans and problems by regulating more, which all that does is cause problems. And it's
and
just like Congress after the bubble burst in 2007, they bring in housing regulation after it's already happened. Like it matters at that point. And all it did was just hinder everything after that.
What is
it's the problem with these big props is they don't give you a two-way market, unfortunately. You know, they're not giving you the true odds either way.
What's supporting our dollar? What backs our dollar?
Nothing.
Not gold anymore. Bitcoin.
A promise.
Faith and credit in the United States government.
A promise. That's right. A promise backs our currency.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep.
So
my problem with
Bitcoin is I didn't quite understand the mining and who controls it and how it's controlled and how it's monitored and I laughed at the fact is if you don't remember your password, you lose your bit. You're going to lose all your.
That does suck, by the way. That guy's got what,
yeah, it sucks.
Hundreds of millions of dollars he's going to lose or something.
Right. Yeah.
But the blockchain is a lot more stable than the U.S. government. I'll tell you that much. And the U.S. government,
without question. Yeah, it's employee owned, so that's a plus. I like the high V's and the employee owned stores of the world. Kind of like it's kind of like you guys. You all own you. In truth, you have kind of a vested interest in Wager Talk because, you are what you eat. So.
Yeah, well,
what did I miss?
Wager Talk's the best of both worlds. It's the free market capitalism, but it's also like I don't want to say communism because that sounds awful, but it's socialism. Communism works when there's 10 or 20 people, like at Wager Talk, but it doesn't work when there's 300 million.
We have all kinds of social programs. If you say you don't believe in social programs, if you don't believe in social programs, then let me have your Social Security check because it's a social program.
Oh no. It's all Social Security. So Social Security, by the way, here's a better analogy for Social Security. It's a Ponzi scheme.
I'm listening.
It checks every box for a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
Pyramid scheme, whatever you want to call it.
I never thought that I would have Social. I still might not.
You have assets that are being paid out to the original investors with the new people's money with no underlying asset. That is a Ponzi scheme by definition. That's what Social Security is.
Yes,
there's no underlying asset. And the people getting paid out are getting paid out with the younger people's money like me, and then eventually, gets held holding the can.
Well, the first receivers, yes,
right.
But anybody that's our age and they've reported their income accurately and honestly, I don't know anybody that's ever done that, but not completely, but especially not in our business. But I'll deny that. If somebody replies, I'll say that's not me. Where's Tony? What did you do with him? It is what it is. I didn't think I'd have it, and I still might not because every time I think I'm going to get it, they move the age.
But it's pretty screwed up that I can't opt out of it and say, hey, look, I'll be responsible for my future, and I'll take my shots being broke and homeless at age 75 if I don't have to pay for the next 30 damn years into this thing. And I would do it in a heartbeat.
What the problem with that is?
And I'd let them keep every cent. I'd let them keep every cent they've already gotten from me. That's how bad I think it's going to be in 20 years.
Well, I don't have 20 years left, so
I know that's why they won't let me do it because the Ponzi scheme has to continue.
Right, and the truth is this, and that is, if they did that, if they let you opt out, it would cost them the work they have to put into making certain that it just creates. It creates another negative. It's just it costs them too much money and it's too complicated to explain to a civil servant. This is what we want you to do, and if you see anything, if you see this or you see that or you see this, we need you to report it here. So this person that this job description that we just made up out of thin air, then they'll do this, and here we go. Just either we don't have it or we do have it.
No, it's because if they don't have it, they won't be able to pay the other people up for the Ponzi scheme.
That's
You're
correct.
making this way too complicated, Tony.
No, I'm not.
You can't tell
I'm
me in
not.
a freedom-loving country I shouldn't be able to opt out of having to give money that I get back in 30 years.
Okay, let me
no
ask
way
you
you can
this
argue
then.
around that. You can
I
can each other
can.
as much as you want. When they started it 70 years ago, the average age span was 67, and they made it 65.
I know,
People
but
died
let me
people were
ask you
supposed
this
to
then.
get 2 years of Social Security. Now they get 20.
Why do you pay taxes? Why can't you opt out of the taxes and tell them that you're
Because
not?
I benefit from the taxes. Because
Well,
it goes
no,
to the hospitals and it goes
No,
to the
no, no,
emergency
no,
fund,
no.
the police force that protects me, make sure my house doesn't get
I
broken.
promise
It pays
I
for the
won't.
roads that I
I'll
drive on
never
every day.
drive.
I use
I'll
the tax
never
money.
drive. I'll
No,
ride
that's
my
not true at all.
horse.
You can
I'll
make
ride
that
my
argument,
horse.
but I think taxes are out of control also. I think 80% of the tax money is wasted, and it's ridiculous. But I do get some benefit from that. Now, if you want to go down that road,
I do.
the people that get the most from the government pay the least in taxes. That's kind of screwed up also.
Well,
if you think
that's
about
the
it,
worst
'cause
part about the
50%
whole
don't pay
thing.
any taxes in this
Yeah.
country, and they probably get more benefits than the 50% that do.
Then how about just a sales tax? How about just a flat tax?
I'm a huge proponent of getting rid of the IRS. I do that in a heartbeat. I think the fair tax or whatever you want to call it, 30% sales tax, I do that in a heartbeat if I was
I
the
would
president.
too. I would too. I really
I'm
would.
fully in line with that. Of course, the reason that'll never happen also is because the IRS is too big to fail. Banks were too big to fail in 2008. The IRS is too big to fail now.
Well, that's the problem the banks have with their crypto is that they don't have any control. They want to
Sure,
control.
that's why they hate
ha-
it. It's the
That's
same
right.
reason the hotels
Absolutely.
hate the B&Bs. It's the same reason the taxi medallions in New York City hated the Ubers and the Lyfts.
That's why
wasn't better for
I
the
hate all the
consumer.
smart guys on my block. You know, they're all smarter than me. I don't like them. You know, I
Well,
don't benefit from them.
watch this.
All right, what are you gonna do?
Watch.
Did he pull out his rabbit? Did he pull a rabbit out of his hat?
Not yet. I'm going to.
Well, this should be interesting.
Why didn't it? Oh, up. Wait. Okay, hold on. I gotta move this. Steve Merril is gonna. It's gonna make his day.
Aren't you supposed to entertain while you're doing all this though? You have to kind of build up to this big trick.
Oh no, I thought you guys were just gonna argue about the next
No, we're not
No.
because I won the argument.
political.
Steve gave up.
All right, here we go. We are officially going to have
I'm all about freedom and liberty.
our
That's all I care about.
analytical
Oh my God!
segment.
There's no
If
such
there's
thing
ever
as
a
free
person that
lunch.
would agree with me, I know it's Tony Finn. He's the last
There's-
person who wants the government telling
There's no
them what
free
to do.
lunch. Nothing's free. Nothing.
I said
Nothing's
freedom and liberty.
Oh, freedom and liberty we have. Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to do any of that stuff. Get you a little cave up in the mountain somewhere, and get completely off the grid.
Ozarks.
Yeah, you can be hillbilly.
Ozarks.
They don't have those mountains aren't very big. You gotta have they only have stills and marijuana in the Ozarks.
Well, I'd like to be active. I wouldn't like a stills thing.
That's it. The Arkansas's top the crop is marijuana.
All right. Why the hell is this not let me do it?
So what are we doing?
I wanted to show a chart of DraftKings.
Oh. Steve, how about this? I have now. I'm late for an unimportant date, so I don't mind. But it's already it's 6:08
Yeah, I know.
on the East Coast.
I was enjoying the way you guys were.
Arguing?
Well, no,
We weren't even
It's
arguing.
not really real. It's not
Only
real.
Tony
now.
Finn could find an argument where we probably agree on 99% of what we were talking about. You're
Yeah.
second
No,
only to
I'm just
Morency, Tony.
I'm
Morenci's
just
ripping me
trying to-
last week because about Aaron Rodgers. I had no opinion on the thing. I was just saying be careful with Packer futures. And I
Yeah.
said that Bovada had a 71% odds last week that he would play game one for the Packers. That's all I said. The market was saying 70% chance he'd stay with Green Bay. And Gabe thinks the whole thing's blown out of proportion. Everybody hates their team. Everyone hates their core. I wasn't necessarily disagreeing. All I said is that they don't like Rodgers in the locker room. And he said, well, they don't like this guy. I was like, well, they might not. They still don't like Rodgers either, apparently.
You need to be less. You need to be less convincing with your statements. That way, you don't seem so uppity, crusty, and arrogant. And then Gabe won't bang on you. Got to act a little indecisive.
We somehow get to Ben Roethlisberger was a jerk or something. I was like, where the hell is that coming from? And
Well, he is a jerk.
He won a Super Bowl still. I was like, well, he did. He didn't want to leave Pittsburgh when he won the Super Bowl.
He
Aaron
didn't win.
Rodgers
He didn't
was saying
win.
he does not want to be there. It's a
He
problem.
didn't win Nice Guy of the Year award. I promise you, Ben
Yeah, that's
Roethlisberger
true.
is never going to win that.
But those guys weren't demanding trades before the season began. Is my point with Gabe.
Oh no, not but well. No,
maybe not.
of course not.
You know what I'm saying. I'm very nervous when a key player
Aaron
doesn't want to be
Rodgers is
there.
a little peculiar, and he's
exactly, he's strange on top of that.
Right,
that was my whole point with Gabe.
And that's subjective.
On top of it, I love
that's subjective because he's a little he's a smart guy, and all you smart guys,
they're talking about him.
All you smart guys are a little bit queer.
I use the Tiki Barber analogy. I was like, he's the kind of guy that would just walk away from football. And if you're the Packers, you better be damn nervous about that because
you better. It's not like he needs money.
Exactly.
You want evidence? Ask Luck.
Like Roethlisberger was never going to walk away from football in the mid 2000s when they won Super Bowls.
You see all these MIT guys and Stanford guys. They're kind of a little different.
I took a screenshot of DraftKings.
Oh, I thought that was Aaron Rodgers being tackled. Never mind. What is that?
That is DraftKings. Each bar is a day.
A day of what?
Green bar is the close of the day was higher than the opening. And guess what the red is? You got it, Tony. It's lower than the open.
Candlesticks.
So what we have in that red one, yesterday, that is an engulfing candle, and it's also an inverted hammer.
Listen, you've made this more complicated than I. You're
I'm
losing me.
Not a problem, John. Ryan. I understand everything you've said.
I think if I used words like that on the NBA show, everything would be fine.
I agree.
I said to Joe Ranieri, Joe, the Sixers are in an inverted hammer situation. I think he would just love it.
Well, it makes perfect sense then.
Well, John, off the record, you and I are going to talk about this because I've had some ideas about this, seriously, about as far as sports handicapping goes. I think a lot of this would transfer.
What are you guys going to do? You're going to patent this and copyright it, patent it, and sell it like sliced bread or NutraSweet?
Well, it's funny, guys. Is like, John, I don't know why I'm so nervous about talking about this on air because we could give it away and 99% would never use it anyway. And they've done that with the financial stuff, like the trend followers in the early 1980s.
I've given away all my patents.
They always said they could publish in the newspaper the rules, and most people wouldn't follow them still.
So, I waiver all my patents so people can use them freely.
Rules is a negative thing right away. If there's rules involved, they won't follow it because
who's they?
The average
everybody
Joe.
Except us.
The problem, though, John,
I never follow rules.
John, what makes me nervous, though, is the one or two people that would follow it are the big, smart hedge funds, and they would just ruin the market because the sports betting markets aren't big enough to encompass that. So that's why I get very nervous about talking about my theories on camera. And unfortunately, Tony, you will not be privy because we'll have to do it in a private conversation, me and John, sometime. But
listen, I wouldn't. I don't care about that stuff too. I don't care. You guys, listen. If you tell me I should be in, there's a pretty damn good chance I'll be in. If you say Tony, don't get involved, I probably won't. I might
John,
just piss off.
The DraftKings now, there's enough of a history where you could actually do a trend following approach with it. There's enough, daily bars and stuff.
I don't want anything to do with
my problem, though, with DraftKings when it first came out, everybody was asking me about the stock because it's financials and sports betting merged, which was like my two fields of expertise, along with John. And
it's the payout.
My thing for the start with DraftKings is like I told people, it's like I haven't, and I'm not a fundamental guy, as you know, John, but I had no way to value the company. I had no way to know what that stock was worth with DraftKings. I didn't know what their valuation was, and even they didn't know because they're expanding to 5 new states in the next month or so. There's no way to value that stock, and it got in at the right time. It's when the markets were hot. It's when people had a lot of money because they couldn't bet on sports, so it ran. But I, to this day, still, I guess maybe earnings are starting to come out now, but even then, you still don't know because not only is every state getting sports betting left and right, but then every state's getting 5 or 6 competitors like FanDuel, BetMGM, Fox Bet. Fox Bet's
that's
not
good
in
for
many states.
that's good for the market. Huge. That's good for it's democracy. It's open. It's good. The more it's like opening a restaurant. Where are you going to open a restaurant? Not in the middle of nowhere. You're going to open it where there's 6 other restaurants within 1 block. You do it best, then you're going to get all that business.
I think at some point DraftKings is going to be very overvalued as a stock. They're the only game in town publicly traded wise, so people love to play the whole. Everybody, even the novices, understand sports betting's big now, and they think DraftKings is their way to play it because it's the only option they have from a publicly traded company.
DraftKings is fun. It's
I
for
still
fun.
think there's going to be a lot of other companies. I see where Caesars going to engulf the William Hill brand they announced this week. Just going to call it Caesars now, and DraftKings is big, and they had the the early entry advantage, but so did FanDuel, and then these other big boys, all these Vegas casinos. They're not going to sit back and watch these 2 little online guys run with it.
Then guess what they're going to have to do?
It's going to be interesting.
They're going to have to staff. They don't have. Listen, they can't even compete with FanDuel. They don't. First off, they're not funded by the NFL, NBA, and
Right.
and you need to staff. Listen, that they do a great job. Those companies of offering us props or betting options or investment options that Vegas can't because they're just not staffed to do it.
Steve, this is I don't know if Tony's seen this. I know Rob has, but this is 2,222 tweets that my code goes into Twitter, and I'm they call me a certified Twitter developer, so I can go on the back end and run some pretty good queries.
Okay.
So I could do 20,000 if I wanted to, but don't have to because it doesn't improve the results anyway. But what you're looking at here is the Philadelphia Phillies for tonight's game in the betting community. So the hashtag is Ring the Bell, which is the Phillies official hashtag.
Oh, and Liberty Bell?
Ring the Bell.
Stallone?
Well, maybe. I don't know. I don't ask how they come up with these things.
Okay, go ahead. I'm listening. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I need to hear the rest of this because I'm confused. I don't understand why.
Okay, so this is the Philadelphia Phillies. So the program goes and identifies stop words, and there's 10,000 of them. It's an MIT.
What's the most used stop word?
Not.
Stop.
Not.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, that is interesting, John, because I was always curious how you found the sentiment stuff, because we talked about that with Arkansas and Houston in the tournament this year.
Yep.
And I was curious exactly what words and stuff, so that's interesting. So you're using words like not and what don't, I guess, or what? I mean, what else would be an example?
Yep. Do not.
Just negative words.
Well would be positive.
Good would be positive.
Good.
Also.
Highly popular.
Interesting.
Furthermore.
Yeah, I was just curious, big picture, how you were getting these sentiment ratings, because I know you've talked about them before. So
it's a package that Python is built on packages. There's, if not 1,000, there's got to be 1,500 of them. Some of them do machine learning, some do statistical stuff, some do they create Pandas creates spreadsheets. And, where I take my I can scrape live odds and get the game data by using Pandas, and it puts it into a database. So this is identifying stop words within the hashtag Ring the Bell, and it's very few negative results. Only 71 out of 1,111. So then we go, and this is bullish. This is really bullish for betting the Phillies. But let's take a look at what the Atlanta Braves are. They're pretty similar. The difference is that the Phillies one has more neutral percentage. So neutral is neither bad nor good. But in the formula that creates a metric, a single number, the Phillies would be the bet tonight based on the Twitter sentiment beta metric. And it is 3-0 so far, and it was 11-5 in football. So I mentioned this to Las Vegas Chris too, because the other app I'm working on is in the Super Contest in Circa. You pick 5 teams each week, and when you're in the hunt like he was and is just about every year, you get down to the last 6 weeks, and with each increasing week, it becomes more imperative to try to advance by taking teams that the guys ahead of you do not have.
He swears by that, and every year he comes over and says, he says you can't win unless you do that. I believe that to be inaccurate. I think you can win it by picking winners.
But you can't catch up then if you're picking the same winners as the guys ahead.
If you're behind, that's absolutely accurate. If you're behind, if you play that's what I would do. Are you kidding me? If I'm the leader,
I agree with both of you. Tony's right. I mean, if you're in the lead, you just got to keep picking winners. But otherwise,
but if you're in 40th place,
the game theory aspect comes in big time if you're trailing, though.
Yep. Yeah. So anyway, what the app does, I've scraped Well, each week there's over 15,000 data, not data points, they're picks. I get over 15,000 picks from 3,500 entries.
I know
picks.
where you're going with this.
And I think I
like it.
have 10 years of it now. So that's a huge amount of data. And now I'm playing around with a predictive tool that will tell you
who the 5 picks are going to be, the most common 5 picks.
Who will be the at least 3 of the 5 picks among the top 100 entries.
Okay.
Yeah, what gets me, John, though, on that is that I used to look at the consensus with the Hilton contest back in the day, and
it's the same Westgate now.
You figure there's obviously the Hilton's gotten real bastardized, just like the World Series of Poker, and that's why I don't mess with it anymore. It's just become a lottery ticket. It's too top heavy, too random.
Yep.
But back when it was sharper, less entries than just the pros. Even then, though, it always amazed me how square the general consensus picks were in that contest. And maybe it was not as sharp as I thought, maybe, even though they're pros. But that's why I'm surprised, because the argument I would make is that, yes, you can know the general consensus, but if it's guys that are sharp enough to be winning these contests, you would think, well, that doesn't really work because these guys aren't consensus guys anyway. Yet, I guess it still kind of plays out that way. It's really remarkable. And you guys know I did that NFL Fade the Public video for Wager Talk, this year, and it went 31-7. I started it late November, and I'm looking forward to doing it all season next year, although I think it won't work as well early in the season, unfortunately. But so I'm a huge consensus guy in the NFL. I love looking at that stuff. I think it works better in the NFL than any sport.
I just want you to create the crystal ball. That's all I want. I want that accurately forecasts more than the weather. And I'm in.
If you could tell me the fumble, not even an interception, you could just tell me the fumbles within 1/10 of an accuracy, we'd make a small fortune.
Yeah. Listen, I wouldn't argue with that either.
Have you played around with that, John, before? Any predictive stuff for fumbles, or even just? I mean, obviously interceptions are a different beast because quarterbacks and secondaries get more, and bad quarterbacks throw more. But I know I saw one study years ago where NFL fumbles were 90% random. I think that sounds about right to you.
The article does, but I don't think it's completely random, because if you look at teams that no matter how good they are offensively, they go 3 games in a row without a turnover, there's a increased propensity that there is going to be a turnover. And it usually is, they come in bunches. So when that happens, you can have a forecast of, let's say, Jacksonville's gone 3 games without a turnover, and the program may say that over the next 2 to 3 games, they're going to have a total of X. It could be 4 turnovers, it could be 6, it could be... It would be a significant number. It would average more than 1 per game.
Have you ever broken it down to fumbles only?
No, but that's not hard to do.
Yeah, because I think fumbles are very random in the NFL. Now, college football is a different story because you got bigger, stronger teams, more physical teams against, a Sun Belt team or something, SEC versus Sun Belt. But the NFL, I can't imagine you can make a case there's much of a difference in fumbles unless you get a guy like Daniel Jones or somebody, some of these fumble-happy guys.
Hey, Steve, John, I've been that finally the promotion or the 10-minute segment I was supposed to do at the top of the hour.
Yeah,
they just called me or texted me, so I'm gonna bow out and give you my free pick for tonight. And the free pick is
that's good. We'll just end the show here anyway because I got to.
I apologize, guys.
No, I got to get running.
I got to get to dinner.
Okay, you over Boston, Chicago tonight. That's my pick. 220 up to. I got it at 223. It's at 226 now. It's been climbing slowly all day. It's the same 2 where Boston scored 19 points in the first quarter and the fourth quarter, or second quarter and the fourth quarter. The last time they played the defensive minded, the top defensive team in the NFL and the NBA, right? Chicago Bulls.
Yep. I'm going with the under in the Utah Jazz game, which I think we said was like 217.5 or something.
Yeah, and Tony heard this one. We did it on the NBA show. I'd put the over 226.5 at the time between the Heat and T-Wolves.
That's right. You did like that.
And,
that's climbed a little bit, has it not?
Yeah, I was going to say that's when we gave it out. And that's why I was saying at the time of the show. Let me check the current line.
It is
227 at some sharp books earlier. That's why I knew it was going higher. And I've seen 227 now. So it's pretty much met. Pinnacle was 227. Everyone else was 226.5 when we did the show. It's another reason I liked it. And now they're all 227. Pinnacle's 227, juiced to the over. So
I think I have to pull mine. Mine's still. Well, that's about right. I was gonna say I made it a good only 225, and we're already at.
You're at 226 now, Tony.
Right, I know. So somebody could actually, they could, report me to the total police point spread, the handicap police, and I'd be in trouble.
Should be the least of your concerns.
And Rob Veno had over 113 points first half.
Yeah.
Portland and the Lakers, and with my under in the Jazz, it's 50% pre-flop, 217.
Well, I'm going to go parlay all those
at 225.
I'm going to parlay all of them.
And Ben Simmons, points, assists, rebounds over 25.5. I'm bucking the trend because I just want to feel cranky for about 2 minutes.
Well, it's Degenerate Friday. I've switched. It's not Degenerate Tuesday this week. It's Degenerate Friday. So go be degenerate for a little bit.
I'm going to go punch a tree.
Nice.
Hey.
All right, boys. I'll talk to y'all soon. Have a good
Good luck tonight, guys.
Have a good weekend.
I'll see y'all soon.
See you, Stevie. I'll see you if you need me to cover for you.
No, I'm good. I'm going to
do.
do a little segment with Gabe tonight, a little pre-tape, and then I'll see you probably tomorrow.
Okay, man.
All right, for Steve Merril, Tony Finn, myself, the Predictive Playbook, Sports Memo, and Wager Talk. May all the wins be yours.
Power to the heterosexuals.